loyalty. That's why this country was created. That's what makes it so great. Now, tying that into the gun issue. So we're on YouTube right now?
Yeah, we're on YouTube right now. We're about to go live on...
All right, we'll say hi to our YouTube audience. Let me know when we're on Facebook. Okay. We are on our way to the scene of the high school in Santa Fe, Texas, where there was a shooting. We are about to be joined by our Facebook Live audience as well, so please bear with us on YouTube as we get that set up.
What do you want for the title on Facebook?
Identity of Texas high school shooter released. Once again, for our YouTube audience, we're just waiting to be joined by our live Facebook audience now. And we're going to give you the newest details that are emerging from the high school shooting in Texas.
We're live on both.
Alright, so we're now live on both. Owen Schroyer here for INFOWARS.com. We are about 45 minutes, give or take, away from the high school in Santa Fe, Texas, where a shooter went in and killed at least 10 people is the number that's being reported right now. I'm sure that there were others wounded. And they've released the name of this individual. But you know what? I'm going to actually practice what I preach, because in the last segment, there was, we covered an article in Town Hall that gave 7 suggestions on how to solve the problem of school shootings, and one of them, I forget how it was phrased, I think it was publicize the punishment, or make public the punishment, or whatever. I don't know if that means like a public hanging, or you really talk about whatever their jail time is or whatever. I thought that a better approach would be, instead of glorifying the individual by making them famous, by putting their name everywhere, which is what we do every time, and then the name Nicholas Cruz lives on forever. Instead, I think we should give these shooters a nickname. You can still use their face and, you know, get their real identity and background and everything, but they should go down in history with a derogatory, demeaning nickname. Now, the shooter's actual name is Dimitri something. It appears to be some sort of a Serbian last name or something. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to call him Porky Pig. Okay. So, and I'm not trying to make a joke of this. This isn't me making light of the situation. This is me choosing not to etch the shooter's name in history to be glorified, because I think what motivates a lot of these shooters is the fact that they do get famous, that they do see their name everywhere, and then they kind of use that as a, like, getting back at the world thing. Like, the world has done them wrong, so they're going to get back at the world. And then once their name becomes famous, that's like their victory. That is their moment. That is their come to Jesus moment, where they feel like they have successfully accomplished what they were setting out to do, get back at the world, and then get famous. So all those people that bullied me, guess what? I'm the famous one now. My name goes down in infamy. You'll never even be known in world history. So to curtail that, which I believe could be a motive for some of these shooters, I'm not gonna say the guy's real name. The real name has already been out there, but I'm gonna practice what I preach. And I think this is what we need to start doing. We need to start giving these shooters derogatory nicknames. Maybe you base it off what they look like or something. I don't know. But that way you don't have the motivation of getting your name famous and kind of having that final moment in the sun where you get to be famous, your name goes everywhere, and then that's kind of a satisfying thing for you, where the world, you feel, has mistreated you and bullied you, but you got one up on the world because now you're famous. So I'm just going to call the shooter Porky the Pig. And I'm not trying to make light of the situation. I just don't want to glorify the shooter's name anymore. And I think that's part of the problem. So Porky the Pig, we've got more details on this shooting, and it's actually pretty amazing when you break this story down. So we're still getting more details coming in, but here's what we are getting reported. The shooter was using a shotgun and also had a series of pipe bombs and other explosive devices, including a pressure cooker bomb. Now, let's address these two things real quick, with the pipe bombs and the pressure cooker bombs. Okay, I have two angles to this. My first angle is, how is it, and this comes to parenting, which we've got more news on in a minute that I'll get to. How is it, or is it something, where is he making these explosive devices? That's my question. Where does he, first of all, he obviously had to go out and buy all of the equipment and ingredients. Okay, we addressed that. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. But he had to concoct these things and build them somewhere, unless someone else built them for him. He had to spend a lot of time, and he needed a workplace. This is I'm believing this is a 17-year-old student, I think is what we're being told, an 11th grader. So where is this workspace of his? Where is he making these pipe bombs? Where is he making this pressure cooker device? Or did someone else make them for him? How was he able to get away with making all these explosive devices without being noticed? Where you look at the Austin bomber, and you can say this is a guy who is a little bit older, who doesn't have the same type of parameters with parenting and living at home that a 17-year-old high school student would have. You know, I was talking, you know, to Drew here, the cameraman videographer with us. We were talking about how hard it was. I mean, just in high school, like if I wanted to, you know, sneak a bottle of vodka or something into my bedroom and hide it, how hard that was for me. I mean, I couldn't even sneak booze past my parents half the time. So how is this guy sneaking, building pipe bombs and pressure cooker bombs, or did someone else build them for him? Is this a lack of parenting? So that's one issue. We'll address that when we get more answers. Now, the story is, he's got all these pipe bombs, and he's going around the school, and he's lobbing them into classrooms. So this guy's going room to room with pipe bombs and a shotgun, lobbing pipe bombs into a bunch of different classrooms. Now, so let's just analyze this. Unless this individual has an extended magazine for his shotgun, which is very rare. I mean, very rare. I was just at the NRA conference in Dallas, and of all the different weapons and additions and everything that you can find, I only saw two of the tens of thousands of different weapons and everything, two shotguns that could even hold an extended clip and then had an extended magazine. So this is a very rare item to begin with, and it's easily noticeable. As soon as you see a shotgun with an extended magazine on it, it's like so easy to recognize. So, why am I saying this? Well, unless the shooter had an extended magazine on his shotgun, you're dealing with a firearm that at the most probably has an 8-round capacity. I don't know what type of shotgun he was using, but 8 rounds is like the most you'll get from a typical standard shotgun that you'll go buy from a store. So consider this: he has a gun that can only fire, unless he has an extended magazine, which I have not heard anything on, that can maybe fire, let's say, 8 rounds. So he's got a shotgun that can fire 8 rounds. Well, he somehow killed 10 people. So if this guy fires off his shotgun a bunch of times, well, loading and reloading a shotgun is not the easiest thing. It's not as simple as just taking down a magazine and plugging in a fully loaded one. Most shotguns, you have to break it down and reload it round by round. So if that's the case, unless we learn differently, I would assume that's the case, you're dealing with an individual that was able to use a shotgun for a mass shooting, which is not typically what you... The other aspect, he's going room to room lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms. So he's got these pipe bombs, he's going room to room lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms. Okay, so then we're having this discussion. Now, everybody wants to think they will be a hero or would be brave and stand up in a situation like this, like the young gentleman did at the Waffle House. I can't believe I forget that hero's name, but total hero, stood up. He was the brave guy that stood up to the gunman at the Waffle House. He comes out alive, gets shot in the hand, saves a bunch of lives. Everybody'd like to think it could be that guy. Everybody'd like to think they could be that courageous guy. I'd like to think I could be that guy. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation. But when you think about it, you're dealing with an individual now on the scene. My guess is this is just common sense logic, unless new details emerge. This individual using a shotgun fired off all the rounds available in a shotgun. Okay, so now you're talking about a reload period, unless he's just going to put one in and fire one off. You're talking about a reload period, unless he is just the most magnificent, proficient reloader of a shotgun ever, probably about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how proficient he is with his shotgun. And we can talk more about that in a minute too, because there's other details about his father that have emerged. But, so this is not an ideal situation if you're in a crowd and doing a mass shooting, because now you have a 30-second period where you're stalled and you're forced to reload and you cannot fire anymore. Now again, I haven't seen any reports of an extended magazine. I haven't seen any reports of any other firearm, if you had a pistol or anything else on it. So we're just reporting on what we know. So as soon as he finishes firing his rounds, he's kind of dead in the water. Oh, but he's got these pipe bombs. So now he's going classroom to classroom and lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms. Well, here's my question. And again, I'm not trying to slight anybody at the school. I'm just saying, how is it that this guy, this Porky the Pig individual, is able to do a mass shooting with a shotgun and then also classroom to classroom lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms without anybody stopping him? How does nobody stop that? How does nobody realize that a shotgun can only fire so many rounds, and then you have to reload it by breaking it down or going round by round, and then he's walking around lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms? How does nobody stop him? How does nobody stop him? Again, I'm not trying to slight people at the scene and say, wow, look at how you're all a bunch of cowards. I'm not trying to say that, but at the same time, I have to wonder how he's able to do that. How he's able to use a shotgun for a mass shooting, very ineffective for firing off a bunch of rounds, and then go classroom to classroom lobbing pipe bombs in a classroom without stopping him. Is there no security on the scene at all? Is there not one brave individual that's willing to go tackle this guy and stop him? So I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen reports of this. All I can go with is what I've been given so far. And just that image, and just having to think about that and that playing out in my head, it just begs that question. How does an individual accomplish this?
Just stay.
Okay.
I got a different route.
All right. How does an individual accomplish this without anybody stopping him? So that's one question, and maybe more details will emerge that can give us an answer to that. But right now, that to me is a big question. Is there no security on the scene? Is there nobody on the scene that's willing to try to tackle this guy when he's using a shotgun and he's obviously fired all his rounds and he's just walking classroom to classroom with a pipe bomb? I mean, again, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know how I would behave in that scene. I think we all would like to think we could be a hero. But you're talking about a situation that, to me, is easily stoppable with just one person, just one individual willing to step up and be a hero. Or, like I said, is there literally not one security guard at the school? I mean, not one that can be monitoring this and know that he's out of ammo and go in and take him out? So I don't know, maybe new details will emerge to answer some of those questions, but that was kind of the first thing that came into my head when I'm reading about the accounts of what was going on. Now, we've got some sources that we're going to be in touch with when we get to Houston, and we're going to be interviewing eyewitnesses. We're going to see how much information we get at the scene. But some other details are emerging as well. So apparently, and this actually goes back to what I was saying in the last live broadcast. I was expecting something like this to roll out. Apparently the father, they're saying, is a fan of Dana Loesch, conservative talk show host, spokeswoman for the NRA, huge gun rights activist and advocate. So the father apparently is NRA member, and a big fan of Dana Lesh. So they're going to use that, and they're going to spin that, and then don't be surprised if that's how this shooter gets labeled as an NRA member, gun activist, because his father was. Again, details need to be revealed to get a clear picture of what significance that actually has in this situation. Because again, I beg the question, how is a 17-year-old high school student able to buy all the materials and then make pipe bombs? I'm assuming the guy lives at home. I mean, he's a 17-year-old high school student. Most of them live at home. Very small fraction of people actually wouldn't live at home at that age. And in fact, in my experience, the ones that usually don't live at home are either ones that come from a socioeconomic background of poverty, where they live with a closer member of a relative, a grandma or cousin or something, so it's easier for them to get to school. Other situations with, for example, like a DACA recipient or an immigrant here at a very young age whose parents or whatever may not still be stabilized in this country. I've seen other instances where they might live on their own and they can do fine. But most of the time, 99% of the time, a 17-year-old high school student is living at home. So how is this individual able to buy all the materials and then build multiple pipe bombs and a pressure cooker bomb under his parents' roof? So there's going to be questions that are going to be asked about that. Were his parents separated? Were they together? Were they living together? This, that, and the other thing. Was his dad on the scene? Was he traveling? How is this individual able to assemble pipe bombs and a pressure cooker bomb at 17 years old, living under his parents' roof? That is a question that really shakes my head. Again, maybe I'm an extreme example, but I couldn't. It was a chore for me just to sneak a bottle of booze past my parents and just figure out where to hide that without being discovered. So I don't know how pipe bombs and pressure cooker bombs get made by a 17-year-old student. Now, 17-year-old student with a shotgun, not that odd to me. I grew up with guns. I had friends that were big gun enthusiasts that used to go shooting, had shotguns, rifles in high school. In fact, they're shooting clubs. They're shooting clubs at my old high school. They have skeet shooting clubs and other shooting clubs and gun clubs. So that to me is not really a red flag or any big deal. That's perfectly fine. You're well within your right to have guns, and that's cool. But the assembly of the explosive devices is a question that I think begs answering as to how he was able to assemble that. Because now you're looking at a situation. Regardless of what you want to say about the father and all we've been told conveniently for the liberal media, I'm sure it's all over. Father, NRA member, fan of Dana Lesh. Oh, perfect. Oh yeah, it's like a perfect recipe for the liberal media. How convenient. But that doesn't mean that he was a great parent. That doesn't mean he was hands-on with his son. That doesn't mean that he was paying attention to his son's life closely. So, just because I may or may not have the same politics as the guy doesn't mean that, he's doing the right thing parenting-wise. So now you have an aspect of, is there a parenting issue at hand? But these are all the questions that are going to have to be answered as new details are emerging on the event. But we're on our way right now to Santa Fe, Texas. We're going to talk to people on the ground, hopefully speak with some eyewitnesses, speak with some students, and see the entire media coverage of this, see what kind of media fiesta is going on down there. I wonder if all media outlets are going to be down there. If they've already got their setups rolled out and everything. It is Houston. I know that Fox News has at least in Houston, that they send people out in Houston to do reports, so I would expect Fox News to be there. But as far as CNN, I don't really know. MSNBC satellite operations, I don't really know too much of them. I don't know if they have many of them, but they do have NBC affiliates, obviously, in Houston that they could send out to report on this and then feed that back through MSNBC and the rest of their affiliates there. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of media is out here. And then, what kind of response am I going to get with an INFOWARS mic flag? Because you know that they want to blame us for this. They want to blame us for Sandy Hook. They want to blame us for everything just because we report on it. And they want to demonize gun activists or demonize NRA members, demonize conservatives, what have you, to make us the bad guy. So that's another incredible thing, how they're able to almost completely skip the blame of the actual shooter. Like, the shooter was never the problem. You see, the shooter was never the one to blame. It was never the shooter's fault. It was the gun's fault. It was the Republicans' fault for letting him get a gun. So it's never the shooter's fault, according to liberal media. So it's always incredible how they just totally forego blaming the person that actually does the shooting. It's like, if you're getting stabbed to death with a knife, let's say they have a buck knife, a buck pocket knife, and they're stabbing you to death, are you going to sit there and you're going to say, oh my God, why did Buck make this knife? Oh, Buck, to hell with you, Buck. Buck, the buck knife. You guys created this knife and now it's your fault that this guy's stabbing me. No, there's no logic, of course not. Just like you don't blame the gun manufacturer for the guy that just shot you in the leg. You blame the shooter. But liberal media always forgoes that and just goes right to the guns, right to the NRA, right to the NRA supporters, and now this is going to be Dana Loesch. Now, this is actually pretty interesting to see. Personally, I'm a big fan of Dana Loesch. She comes from St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from as well. She does a great nationally syndicated talk show, and she is an extremely powerful spokeswoman for the NRA. Just incredible. But she already kind of got a taste, honestly. And I'm not trying to demean Dana Loesch here, but she really doesn't have a clue what it is like to be demonized by the media until this most recent shooting. Now, she's been under attack. Again, I'm not trying to act like Dana Loesch has never had media scrutiny. She's had a ton of it throughout her career. But she's never really felt the full brunt of a truly collaborative effort to demonize her as she experienced after the Florida high school shooting. Well, I got news for you, Dana. You're about to experience what INFOWARS and Alex Jones experiences all day, every day, 24/7, 365 days a year. Because now they're going to come after Dana Loesch even harder, and they're going to blame her for this. And you watch. She's about to be the big enemy of this, like Alex Jones was the big enemy of Sandy Hook. All right, so real quick, let me speak to Drew here and figure out where we need to go next.
Get over in your right lane. You're gonna exit right here at Galveston 45.
Okay. Get a shot of this cross right here. We all need prayer, folks. We all need to be praying for the victims and for the people that are mentally sick enough to go do something like this. So I just wanted to capture that as we are rolling through here. All right, so we're gonna take this.
Yeah, in a half a mile, you're gonna veer to your right as well, okay, toward Galveston. There should be another.
So it's just 45 south.
Right.
All right. Okay, so just getting directions here as we are live streaming here from the road on the way to Santa Fe, Texas, where the high school shooting happened, is to quit glorifying them by putting their name everywhere. So now Nicholas Cruz is, famous. Everybody knows Nicholas Cruz, but how many people know about Meadow Pollock? How many people know the names of the victims? The gym teacher that was the hero. I mean, even I don't remember the gym teacher's name. So that's what we do, is we glorify and make famous the shooter instead of glorifying and making famous the people that were there and that were victims or that were heroes. So when you hear me say Porky Pig, that's what I'm referring to the shooter as. I don't want to give his name any credit. I don't want to make his name famous. So Porky Pig is the one we're referring to as the shooter. And I believe that this can curtail some of these shootings, because I think some of the motive, maybe not the biggest leading motive, but kind of a side motive or even like a justification. Like, well, you know what? If I do this, I'm going to be famous and my name's going to be forever in history books and everything. And because I feel like I've been downtrodden and oppressed by the world, this is my way of getting back at the world by killing people and then becoming famous and having my name everywhere. So there's kind of a satisfaction, there's kind of a release in that. So I think we can curtail that from being any sort of motivation by just not talking about their names, not saying their names ever. So I'm just referring to the shooter as Porky Pig. But the real name and identity has obviously already been publicized. It's on Drudge, it's on INFOWARS, it's everywhere. So you can find name. I just want to practice what I preach and then show you what I'm talking about as to why I'm doing it. But we're on the way right now, and the only thing I wish I could cover that I can't right now because we're on the road is what the liberal media is reporting right now, what their talking points are, what their narrative is. Now, I can only go based off what they've done in the past. I can only go based off what they've done in history when it comes to covering these events. And my guess is, based on everything that we know right now and everything that we know from the past, is that CNN and MSNBC are doing the same thing. They're saying this is the Republicans' fault for not signing gun legislation. This is Trump's fault for letting the NRA be to back his campaign. This is the NRA's fault for being there for gun rights and always standing up for gun rights and funding political campaigns. And this is gun owners' fault and NRA members' fault because you allowed this to happen. You're the ones that put all the guns out there. You're the ones that say we have the rights to the guns. So that's the narrative they go with every time before they even learn one fact about the situation. But now you have the added element of reportedly the father being an NRA member and a Dana Loesch fan. Well, this just gives them an entire new tank of gas to fuel a new narrative, or the same narrative with a new angle, which is, see, we told you so. We told you so. These NRA members are dangerous. We told you so. Conservative talk radio is going to motivate people to kill people. So they're going to use that, which they've been trying to say for decades, and now they're going to use this to act like they were right without getting any of the facts out first. So that's what I'm expecting to happen. That's what I'm expecting is going on right now. Again, I am driving, and we've been live, so I'm not really monitoring the news as I normally would do. But that's my guess is how this is going to go. Conservative talk radio is dangerous. The NRA is dangerous. Oh man, I can't see. See, now I'm actually starting to get sick thinking about this because I know what's going to happen. Oh man, this is ridiculous. So here's what's going to happen, folks. They're going to have this is going to be the Florida high school shooting 2.0, okay? But they're going to up their rhetoric. They're going to if you can believe it or not, they're actually going to up their rhetoric against the NRA. They're going to up their rhetoric against Dana Loesch, and they're going to up their rhetoric waves throughout the country. And really, the way they're doing that is they're just having sports media come in and buy these radio stations that they just run as ESPN programming or NBC Sports programming or something like that. But this is what they're going to do. They're going to up their rhetoric against the NRA. They're going to up their rhetoric against conservative talk radio. They're going to up their rhetoric against gun owners. And I have to tell you, this targets obviously me because I have a talk radio show. I'm an NRA member and I'm a gun owner. So now you see. So now they're going to dehumanize me. This is incredible, folks. I can't even believe I'm reporting on this. I can't even believe that I'm saying this, but it's true. Liberal mainstream media is going to blame me for this shooting and not the actual shooter. They're going to blame Dana Loesch for this shooting and not the actual shooter. They're going to blame the NRA for this and not the actual shooter. They're going to blame Republicans for this and not the actual shooter. So most of the audience that's listening to this right now, I would guess, is one of these things: a gun owner, an NRA member, or a listener to conservative talk radio. Well, guess what? The Democrats and the liberal media blame you for this attack. You're going to be the one to blame for this. You, the gun owner. You, the NRA member. You, the conservative talk radio audience. You, the Republican. This is your fault. That's what they're going to say. And they're going to dehumanize you. And so here's what happens next, folks. And this is where it gets really dangerous. And this is where the rubber actually meets the road with the true agenda here. They want a civil war in this country. Now, originally, they thought they could roll something like that out and use FEMA and the military and the government to oppress the people and take our rights away. But that's not going to happen anymore. Trump is the president. The military is a bunch of patriots. FEMA, I don't really know. FEMA, I've had weird experiences with FEMA people, and I've had weird experiences in FEMA places. FEMA, I think maybe these people at FEMA actually might try to come to confiscate the guns, but that's a separate issue. Or who knows, maybe they call in the UN to do it, who's not even Americans. Most of the UN operatives in America are Chinese or Asian. But that's down the road. What is going to happen now is the radical leftists that protest Trump, that protest the NRA, all of these people, they just got more fuel to their fire, and they just got more vitriolic in their hatred for me, for you, for conservatives, for Trump, for the NRA. And what they really want to do with this reporting, again, this has nothing to do with the shooting. This is just the propaganda in the media. The shooting is a separate event that they're using to get this agenda through, which is, if you dehumanize Trump supporters enough, if you dehumanize NRA members enough, if you dehumanize conservative talk radio hosts enough, they hope that their radical factions of the liberal left in America, the fringe left, that goes out and protests and does all this stuff and burns buildings and burns cars and flips cars and breaks windows and everything, they hope that they can get that radical faction of liberals in this country to start actually committing acts of violence consistently against conservatives, against Trump supporters, and against NRA members. Now, you have to understand how this brainwashing works. If they can convince these people who are already mentally deranged, already mentally weak, and if they can convince them that we are the bad guys, that we are the cause for concern, that we are the ones causing mass shootings and all of this stuff, they then feel justified to go out and commit violence against us. That's why you had all the violence against Trump supporters. That's why if you wear a Trump hat and you go out in public, you're going to have some radical liberal either try to fight you or cheap shot you or verbally insult you. Because they've now justified that with the fake news and the liberal media, that they've demonized Trump supporters so much to the fact that the radical leftist feels justified, empowered, and even like a hero that they're fighting a Nazi. I fought a Nazi. Look at me. I'm a big tough liberal. I beat a Nazi. I beat the guy that was responsible for the Florida shooting, a conservative talk show host. I beat them. I'm the badass. I'm the hero. Ugh. When really, you're just a brainwashed minion of the New World Order. So that's what they're going to do here. So the shooting is not even going to end up being the story. The shooting is going to end up being a total separate event that they use to dehumanize the NRA members, to dehumanize conservative talk radio hosts and conservative talk radio listeners, and to dehumanize Republicans, GOPers, gun activists, whatever. So that's what this is going to end up being in order to foment violence against us, in order to create an environment where the most radical, deranged leftists feel empowered, justified to go out and do harm to people. And they're gonna do it, folks. So now they've just put a bigger target on our backs because of another shooting that we have nothing to do with. But just bear with me right now as we're about to make an exit on the freeway here and figure out where we're going here. So again, Owen Schroyer with you for INFOWARS.com. We are headed to Santa Fe, Texas from the INFOWARS World Headquarters in Austin, Texas. There has been a shooting at a high school in Santa Fe, Texas. The reports are 10 dead. The reports are that he entered the school with a trench coat and some military-style boots. He was using a shotgun, and apparently he was lobbing pipe bombs into classrooms and also had a pressure cooker bomb. So details are emerging. Also, they're reporting that the father was an NRA member and a Dana Lesh fan. So how convenient for liberal media. That's going to become, you watch. I haven't had time to watch yet, but I would bet that becomes the story. And they're going to end up blaming the NRA again, blaming Republicans and everything, and totally ignoring the actual shooter himself that actually committed the crime. So we'll have to see how that develops, but that is totally my guess right now. So we're getting closer to the scene. So do I go right at this light here?
Yeah, the light, take a right.
All right. How far away does it say we are? Okay. All right, so here's what we're gonna do, folks. I'm gonna sign this off because I need Drew to be fully committed to making sure that we get to the right place on time here. So I'm gonna sign off. So for INFOWARS.com, this is Owen Schroyer. Again, live coverage. We're gonna have more live videos. We're gonna be talking to people on the ground. The Alex Jones Show is still live. Yeah, look at this right in front of us. Come and take it. Yeah, it's too bad you didn't have a guy like that at the high school that was armed. This is a Navy dad here too. That was armed when this shooter entered the scene with the explosives and the guns, because he would have been dropped immediately. So again, I wonder if there wasn't a stand down initiated here because you didn't have anybody address the shooter immediately and take him down, like we saw at the high school in Illinois earlier this week, and like we saw at the high school at Maryland about a month ago, which the media doesn't even report on. They only report on it when there's a stand down. So I'm going to sign off. For INFOWARS.com, this is Owen Shroyer. We'll be right back in about 20 minutes.
Get in your left lane.